During my grad school days at the University of Waterloo, I was able to participate in teaching part of a summer program for students in physics, and I really found it a fun and exciting experience. And then when I moved to the Bay Area, I saw ads for ThinkTank Learning, and what really struck me as something that I thought I would enjoy and find a challenge was that we were free as teachers to develop our own curriculum and try and find new ways to present the material. And I thought that would be a really great challenge. It was something I really wanted to get into. I would really enjoy. There was a student in my physics class, and as the course went on, she was really gaining confidence to the point where she was challenging me when I was presenting ideas. And I love to see that because then I really know that I have students who are engaged. In one particular lesson, we were looking at the behavior of a pendulum, and we came to an expression for how the time period of a pendulum depends on various things. And I asked the students, okay, so how does the length of the string between the pivot and the bob of the pendulum, how does that affect the time period? And what about the gravitational acceleration? And they could answer that, and that was great. And then I said, okay, well, what about the amplitude? Complete silence, because amplitude doesn't appear in the expression for the time period of a pendulum. And she said, no, it's got to depend. If the amplitude is larger, then the time period must be larger. So we argued, we went back and forth, and finally I got out a pair of pendulums, and we tried it. We tried it with two pendulums, same length of string, different amplitudes, and they swung back and forth right together at the same time period. And she looks at it and she says, "No way." I'm like, "Yes, indeed." And I think she understood the progression of science, which is, you work through the mathematics, you come to an equation that describes what you hope life is really like, and then you reason it out, and you say, does this make sense? And if you think it doesn't make sense, you go back and you try it, you do experiments, and you see, is that how it works? And, the experiment is the confirmation, and if it's right, it's right. And that was just great to see, because afterwards she was totally willing to be arguing and persuading other students to her point of view and her answers based on her mathematical reasoning. And I was very happy to see that. For me, the most rewarding part is when a student goes from not understanding something to understanding it. And you can tell there's a moment where it's like, oh, that's how it works. And it all makes sense. I love to see that moment. I really enjoy it when I can see that students are making breakthroughs and progress. In particular, I love it when they challenge me, when they're convinced that what I'm saying can't be right, and they argue with me, and we go back and forth, and eventually they can convince themselves, or they can convince each other. And that, I think, is the best thing, because I hope that someday they won't just understand the things I understand, they will understand things I don't understand. I want them to move beyond me. That's what I want.
Before I joined ThinkTank Learning, I was working as a professional piano player in New York City. In fact, one of my favorite jobs was working to help develop a new musical that played at Madison Square Garden. I also taught music at Brooklyn Technical High School. I taught choir at a special education school in New Jersey. I was also the activities director at a high school in San Jose for a year. An admissions consultant has the responsibility of helping families prepare for college. In some companies, the admissions consultant's role is very limited. In fact, their job is simply to fill out the college application as soon as the student is a senior. Well, at ThinkTank Learning, we have a much more comprehensive definition of what it means to fully prepare for college. Not only do we help to increase our students' GPA and standardized test scores, as an admissions consultant, personally, I'm interested in helping my students grow in their capacity to learn, to explore, to want to give, to want to contribute, but most importantly, to serve the communities in which they live. The consulting department is a collection of brilliant individuals from the nation's top colleges and universities. It's almost unbelievable how much respect I have for my colleagues. We are teachers, principals, academics, philosophers, businessmen, lawyers, artists, you name it. We come from all walks of life, and in that, we are able to increase the diversity of our team and better serve our clients. Each month, the consulting department comes together for professional development. During our day, we spend time together learning about trending topics in the field of education, but we also take time to learn about each other's problems that we're encountering on the field. We offer each other solutions, but most importantly, we work hard to develop our best practices so we are really giving the best to our clients, the service that they deserve. As a musician, I know very little about athletics, period. Fortunately, there's a member on my team who knows a lot about what it takes to be competitive for collegiate level athletics. He gave a presentation recently about what it takes to prepare students to get recruited, and then what that policy looks like from start to finish. And I found that really helpful. That's just a small sample of the things we talk about. So maybe you're feeling like you don't know a lot about college admissions, but we're here to make sure that you've got the support you need to be successful when you meet with that client face to face. Jennifer came to me with a decent GPA, pretty strong SAT score, but a pretty weak resume. In fact, all that she had done was tutor math and science at the local tutoring center. Now, that in itself is not a problem. However, she wanted to become a surgeon, and she wanted to study biochemistry at UC Berkeley, which is one of the most impacted majors that UC Berkeley has to offer. And I knew at that moment that we had a lot of work to do. Now, as I got to know Jennifer through our consultations, she got to let me know a little bit more about why it is she wanted to pursue this career in medicine. There was a story she shared with me about her mother, who was struggling with breast cancer. There was an incident in which she and her mother and a few family friends were out to dinner. A stranger's purse had fallen to the ground, and as her mother reached over to pick up the purse, her prosthetic breasts fell out. In that moment of shock, Jennifer wanted not only to pick up the prosthetic breasts, but also her mother's broken pieces of confidence that lay scattered across the floor. In that moment, that's when she knew she wanted to pursue a career in plastic surgery. And in that moment, she found her calling. Previously, she had thought of plastic surgery as something very superficial, but she realized in that moment that plastic surgeons have the power to make someone not only look more beautiful, but also feel more beautiful. After she told me that story, I said, you know what, I've got to do my best to make sure that Jennifer can give it her all when she applies to UC Berkeley. Jennifer needed a place to volunteer. Her initial idea was to go to a senior center, and I said, Jennifer, that's not enough. We've got to do something better. So I found Jennifer a placement at a palliative care facility in Milpitas, in which she had the opportunity to care for elderly people who were terminally ill. Jennifer needed some experience with an educational program. She didn't know where to start, so I found for Jennifer a medical conference at UC Davis. She attended the conference, and she was able to speak to Dr. John Zimmerman, one of the most famous plastic surgeons in the world. Jennifer had a strong command of English, but her grammar was sometimes imperfect. I helped her brainstorm ideas for a personal statement. We edited it, I polished it up, and we finally included that in the application. In the end, Jennifer applied to all her schools, all the UC schools, for biochemistry, which is perhaps the most impacted major the UCs have to offer. When her results came back in the springtime, she got accepted to UC Merced, UC Riverside, UC Santa Cruz, UC Irvine, UC Santa Barbara, UC Davis, UC San Diego, UCLA, and UC Berkeley. UC Berkeley was her dream school, but she said she loved that LA life, so she went to UCLA. One of the values that I try to instill in my students is the importance of true leadership. When I talk about leadership with my students, first I tell them what leadership is not. Some people have the misconception that being a true leader means making all the right decisions when everyone is watching you. Well, that's not leadership. True leadership is making the right decisions when no one is watching, when it doesn't matter if you're going to get a reward, when it doesn't matter if you're going to get in trouble. Once students start to embody this concept, the parents see the progress, and they have more confidence in our service, and at that point, they are willing to let go and let that student be who they were truly meant to be. As an admissions consultant, I find joy in helping clients of all different kinds of backgrounds. I pride myself in helping each client achieve a true, complete, and well-rounded education here at ThinkTank Learning, the place where dreams and education meet.
I was always someone who was extremely passionate about education. I had the very fortunate opportunity to teach in high schools and colleges, and eventually I got my master's in teaching. Coming to ThinkTank was really exciting because I had the opportunity to put into practice all of the ideas and innovative, creative new pedagogy that we learned in school on how to connect with students and bring them to the next level. People say it takes a village to raise a child. And as a center manager at ThinkTank Learning, you get to create that village. You get to speak with the parents and the students firsthand and then really understand what motivates the students, what their dreams and aspirations are, and bring together a team of the right consultants, tutors, and teachers to help maximize that student's potential and make their dreams a reality. What makes ThinkTank really stand out in the field of education is our results, and that comes about from the amount of commitment and accountability we give to each of our families and our students. We had a family come into ThinkTank with their daughter who was very, very extremely bright, but wasn't sure what she wanted to pursue. She had talents in engineering and even in the biological medical field, but she somehow wasn't quite sure what it was that made her excited. So after working with our teachers and consultants, we found out that she was actually really, really great at expressing herself through writing. And so what our consultants did was work with her on creating a blog that was eventually made into a short novel that she was able to share with her family and friends. And what mattered to them the most was that she was able to find something she was passionate about and enjoyed pursuing. One of the most rewarding aspects about being a part of ThinkTank Learning is having your students come back year after year to tell you about their successes in college and even in their careers, and to share with you the little things that their consultants and their teachers have taught them and mentored them that have made such huge differences in their lives. Results are our bottom line, but most importantly, we want to make sure each student leaves ThinkTank with a new sense of confidence and purpose.
Growing up, I was a total math geek. When I was not out playing baseball, I was always working on my computer on a software. That eventually leads me to pursue the Master of Computer Science. In 2008, I joined ThinkTank Learning as a software engineer. I remember back then we only had 3 centers and about 15 full-time employees. Someone told me that there is this innovative and challenging idea that sounded like we can only see this in sci-fi movie. But when I start working on this software system, I realized that this is actually the next frontier for education. TDD is a learning management system. I remember the first module that I worked on is to match between student and tutor based on tutor's subject expertise. Now, TDD can track the progress of a student and can also evaluate their academic portfolio. Currently, our team consists of 5 software engineers, 1 UI designer, and many other specialists, including statistics, pattern application, college application, and project management. Today, I'm really proud that TDD is the center hub of ThinkTank Learning. All of our employees are using this daily, from the center manager, tutor, teacher, to consultants and our students. I'm very excited for the future of TDD. We've been around since 2002. That means we have 12 years of real-time application data. With those 12 years of data, TDD can accurately predict the chance of admission to any college. Eventually, students will be able to just punch in their GPA and test score. TDD can automatically guide them through the admission process. Teachers will be able to use the system to manage their online course. Students can get help from the system whenever they want. So I truly believe that this platform is going to be revolutionary. Whenever someone asks me what ThinkTank Learning is, I always tell them that we're a technology company, just happen to be in the education industry.
The story of ThinkTank really began back when I was in high school. It was rooted there. Before I was 10th grader, I was really a problem kid. I didn't like to study until I met a very inspirational teacher. Her name is Mrs. Allen in 10th grade, and she really turned my life around. And I went on to study mathematics and physics in Berkeley. And because of that, I've always respected the role of a teacher. So I always wanted to teach and to share my experience with other people. And even though after college I first pursued a career in finance, but it wasn't really to my heart's calling. And about a year or so later, I went back to education. I started teaching high school, and from there I started ThinkTank Learning on the side, and that the snowball just grew from there. ThinkTank Learning has its humble beginning rooted in Cupertino, California. We started the company in a very small office, 80 square feet, if I remember correctly, within someone else's office. And we really struggled in the first 6 months because we had no student. And I still remember now that we had our first class of 6 students in spring of 2003. The number of students gradually grew from 6 to 30, then to 100. And in the course of past 12 years, we've grown to now 13 operational centers in Northern California and 2 in China, actively serving over 12,000 students. At ThinkTank, we really believe in helping others. In fact, our mission statement says that we want to help broaden horizon or better lives of those we come in contact with. And by that, I mean everyone. It could be you, it could be me, it could be a student, it could be a teacher. So analogously speaking, what I really wanted to do is creating an ecosystem where different organisms, meaning you, me, teacher, directors, employee, even janitor, student, a parent, can coexist peacefully and for one single purpose, and that purpose is to broaden the horizon or better lives of every individual organism in that ecosystem.